The crystalline spires of Nexus Prime caught the light of 3 setting suns, casting prismatic shadows across the High Council chamber. Zarex stood motionless, her iridescent scales reflecting the dying light as she processed the contract details scrolling across her neural interface. In 300 cycles of existence, she had never questioned an assignment. Until now. "You wish me to eliminate a human." Her voice carried no emotion, though her secondary heart skipped a beat. The council overseer, a towering figure of pure energy contained within an ancient environmental suit, pulsed with acknowledgement. "Not just any human, Operative Zorax. This one has been designated as Classification Omega." The overseer's words rippled through the chamber's quantum field. "Subject Sarah Chen, Earth Diplomatic Corps. Officially, she's a mid-level negotiator. Unofficially, she's disrupting 1,000 years of carefully maintained galactic order." Zarex's neural processors analyzed the target's holographic profile. Sarah Chen appeared unremarkable. Average height, athletic build, sharp features, and calculating eyes. Nothing that suggested she could pose a threat to the Nexus Confederation's interests. "Overseer, with respect, I specialize in eliminating quantum warlords and psychic dominators. Humans are." She paused, searching for the diplomatic term. "Limited. Their biology is fragile, their technology primitive. Why waste my talents?" The overseer's energy form flickered, a sign of agitation. 3 cycles ago, Chen negotiated a trade agreement with the Vorax Imperium. Within days, centuries of carefully cultivated tension between our borders dissolved. Last cycle, she mediated a peace treaty between the Silicon Collective and their organic slaves. Now she's pushing for human representation on the High Council itself. Zarex's scales shifted color slightly, betraying her surprise. The Vorax were notorious for their xenophobic aggression, and the Silicon Collective had maintained their doctrine of organic inferiority for millennia. "How?" "That's what disturbs us." The overseer projected a series of diplomatic sessions. She arrives at negotiations with no obvious advantages. No advanced weapons, no psychic abilities, not even basic neural augmentation. Yet she consistently achieves outcomes that should be impossible. Watch. The recording showed Chen in various settings, facing down beings that could crush her with a thought. Yet in each scene, she maintained perfect composure, speaking with quiet confidence that somehow commanded attention from entities that ruled entire star systems. "Our predictive matrices cannot model her strategies," the overseer continued. "She implements solutions that our most advanced AI systems never considered. It defies logic." Zarex studied Chen's movements, noting the subtle way she carried herself. There was something there, something that nagged at her hunter's instincts. "You believe she poses a genuine threat to galactic stability. We believe she represents something far more dangerous: change. Humans have been contained on the galactic fringes for generations, deemed too volatile and unpredictable for full integration. Chen is breaking down those barriers, and others of her kind are following her example. If this continues..." The careful balance of power shifts. Zarex finished. Her specialized organs began producing the biochemical cocktail that enhanced her hunting abilities. But why not simply bar her from negotiations? Because that would raise questions we don't want asked. This must appear as a tragic accident. Your record of untraceable eliminations makes you ideal for this task. Zarex accessed Chen's current location, a remote diplomatic outpost on the edge of regulated space. Easy to reach, easier to stage an accident. Yet something about this contract felt wrong. Not ethically. Zarex had evolved beyond such concerns, but tactically. "I accept the contract," she said finally, "but I require access to all data on human biological and psychological profiles. If this target is as unusual as you suggest, I need to understand what I'm hunting." The overseer pulsed agreement. "Granted. But remember, Operative, time is critical. Chen is scheduled to address the full council in 15 cycles. She must be eliminated before then." Zarex turned to leave, her mind already formulating strategies. At the chamber's threshold, she paused. Overseer, one question. Has anyone else attempted this elimination? The energy being's form dimmed slightly. 2 operatives. Neither returned. We assumed they simply failed to find an opportunity. Or they found something unexpected. Zorax mused. Her primary hunting gland began secreting enhancement hormones, preparing her for the challenge ahead. This would not be the simple task she initially assumed. But then, she hadn't become the Nexus Confederation's premier assassin by underestimating her targets. As she boarded her stealth vessel, Zorax began reviewing the human biological data. Their physical capabilities were indeed unimpressive. Limited strength, no natural weapons, vulnerable to temperature extremes and radiation. Yet something about their neural patterns was fascinating. The way their synapses fired seemed almost chaotic, unpredictable. Perhaps that was what made Chen dangerous, and perhaps that was what would make this hunt interesting after all. The ship's quantum drive engaged, and Zorax felt the familiar surge as space-time bent around her. She had 15 cycles to eliminate a target that had already caused the disappearance of 2 other operatives. For the first time in her career, she felt something beyond her usual professional focus. She felt curious. The diplomatic outpost Sigma-7 hung in the void like a forgotten ornament, its docking arms empty save for a single Earth vessel. Zorax observed from her cloaked ship, her enhanced vision picking up the station's power signatures. Most sections were dark, unusual for a facility this size. Too unusual. Her neural interface processed the security feeds she'd hacked. Only minimal life signs registered, all concentrated in the station's central hub. No security patrols, no maintenance crews, no diplomatic staff. Just Sarah Chen and a handful of human assistants, according to the logs. Curious choice for diplomatic meetings, Zorax murmured, her hunting glands releasing another burst of enhancement compounds. She'd spent 3 cycles studying human behavior patterns, and this scenario violated multiple diplomatic protocols. Chen's previous meetings had all been conducted at major hubs under heavy security. Zorax guided her ship to a maintenance airlock, her scales shifting to match the station's metallic surface. The internal atmosphere read as Earth standard. Another oddity. Most diplomatic stations maintained multiple environmental zones. The airlock cycled silently. Zorax moved through the abandoned corridors like liquid shadow, her specialized organs processing every sound, scent, and energy signature. The station's emptiness screamed of a trap, yet her sensors detected no hidden weapons, no shield generators, no toxic compounds, just silence, darkness, and the faint hum of life support. She accessed the station's internal cameras. Chen sat alone in the central conference room, reviewing data on a primitive tablet computer. No weapons, no protective gear, no obvious security measures. Either supremely confident or supremely foolish. Zorax approached the conference room through the ventilation system, her body conforming to the tight space. Her poison glands were primed, ready to release a toxin specifically engineered for human physiology. Quick, painless, untraceable. The perfect diplomatic accident. She positioned herself above Chen's seat, preparing to strike. The human hadn't moved, still focused on her tablet. One drop was all it would take. The ventilation system. Really? Chen's voice carried a note of amusement. I expected more creativity from the legendary Zorax. Zorax froze. Her neural processors confirmed her stealth field was active, her presence masked by the most advanced technology in the Confederation. Yet Chen spoke as if she could see her. You've been watching me for 6 hours, Chen continued, still not looking up. Long enough to confirm I'm alone, vulnerable, and apparently oblivious. Did you wonder why? The assassin dropped from the vent, landing soundlessly behind Chen. You knew I was coming. Of course. Chen finally turned, and Zorax felt her secondary heart stutter. The human's eyes held no fear, no uncertainty, only a calculating intelligence that seemed to see straight through her adaptive camouflage. The Council is nothing if not predictable. They see change as a threat, and they deal with threats in exactly one way. You sacrifice the other operatives. It wasn't a question. Chen's smile held no warmth. Sacrificed? No. Educated? Yes. They came expecting an easy kill. They left with a new perspective. Just as you will. Xerex's poison glands contracted, ready to strike. You seem very confident for someone facing death. Death. Chen laughed, the sound echoing in the empty room. Is that what you think this is about? Look around you, Xerax. Really look. Use those enhanced senses you're so proud of. What do you see? The assassin's neural processors swept the room again, analyzing every detail. The empty station. The disabled security systems. The single human target who had somehow detected her perfect stealth approach. I see a trap, she admitted. No. Chen stood, her movements deliberate. You see a lesson. The Council sent you because they think humans are simple, predictable creatures, easy to eliminate, just like they thought we were simple, predictable creatures in diplomacy. They never asked themselves why their operatives didn't return. Never questioned why their careful political manipulations kept unraveling. They just kept doing the same thing, expecting different results. Xerax felt her combat reflexes engaging, preparing for any attack. But Chen simply walked to the window, staring out at the stars. Humans have a saying, she continued. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing repeatedly and expecting different results. The Council has spent centuries maintaining their power through the same tired methods. Manipulation, assassination, carefully controlled conflict. They never considered that someone might come along with a completely different approach. And what approach is that? Xerax asked, her curiosity temporarily overriding her mission parameters. Chen turned back, and now her smile held something else. Challenge. Why don't you try to kill me and find out? Xerax struck with blinding speed, her poison glands releasing a deadly spray. Chen shouldn't have been able to move fast enough to avoid it. Shouldn't have been able to predict the attack angle. Shouldn't have been able to grab Xerax's arm and use her own momentum to send her crashing into the conference table. But she did. The assassin rolled to her feet, neural processors struggling to analyze what had just happened. Chen hadn't moved like a human, hadn't reacted like any being Xerax had encountered in 300 cycles of hunting. Impossible, she hissed. Impossible. Chen's voice held genuine curiosity, or just unexpected. That's humanity's true strength, Xerax. Not our bodies, not our technology. Our ability to adapt, to innovate, to become more than our limitations suggest we should be. The human stance shifted subtly, and Xerax felt her combat reflexes screaming warnings she didn't understand. Everything about this situation defied her extensive training and experience. For the first time in her career, the galaxy's deadliest assassin felt something new. She felt uncertainty. Xerax's enhanced metabolism pumped combat chemicals through her system as she circled Chen, every sense hyper-focused on the impossible human before her. 3 centuries of experience told her she should be facing a corpse, not a composed diplomat wearing what looked suspiciously like amusement. Your neural enhancements are impressive, Chen remarked casually, as if discussing the station's recycled air. The way they process tactical data, predict movement patterns, calculate optimal attack vectors. Very efficient, very logical. She paused, head tilting slightly. Very predictable. The assassin's scales rippled with irritation. You know nothing of my capabilities. Don't I? Chen's eyes tracked Xerax's movement perfectly, despite the active camouflage. Your species evolved as apex predators. You hunt by analyzing patterns, detecting weaknesses, exploiting predictable behaviors. Your neural enhancements just make you better at what you already do naturally. But what happens when you encounter something that doesn't follow expected patterns? Xerax struck again, this time deploying her full arsenal. Poison spray from multiple glands, paralytic bards from her wrist sheaths, sonic pulses tuned to human neural frequencies, a combination that should have overwhelmed any defense. Chen moved like water, each attack missing by millimeters, not dodging exactly. More like, she was never quite where Zorax's perfect calculations said she should be. 300 cycles of hunting, Chen continued, her breathing barely elevated. How many targets? 1,000? More. Each one analyzed, predicted, eliminated. But tell me, how many of them truly surprised you? Enough talk. Zorax activated her quantum blade, the weapon materializing from subspace. Your theories about human unpredictability are interesting, but ultimately irrelevant. Everyone dies the same way. Chen's smile widened. Are you sure about that? Your previous targets, they all fought according to their nature, didn't they? The quantum warlords used reality warping technology. The psychic dominators tried to break your mind. Each one followed their species' strengths, their traditional methods. Predictable. The blade hummed as Zorax launched into a series of strikes that should have been invisibly fast, should have been unavoidable, should have ended this increasingly frustrating encounter. Instead, she found herself off balance, her perfect form somehow turned against her. Chen hadn't blocked the attacks, hadn't countered them, had simply made them miss, as if Zorax was a novice swinging at shadows. Humans don't have that luxury, Chen continued, still maddeningly calm. We're not the strongest, fastest, or most technologically advanced species. We can't rely on overwhelming force or superior capabilities. So we learn to be unpredictable, to think differently, to see patterns, and then deliberately break them. Zorax's neural processors were struggling to maintain tactical analysis. Every movement Chen made defied prediction algorithms that had never failed before. It was as if, "You're not fighting me," she realized suddenly. "You're fighting my predictions. Now you're beginning to understand." Chen's approval seemed genuine. Your neural enhancements are processing what I should do, based on known human capabilities and standard combat responses. But I'm not doing what I should do. I'm not even doing what I could do. I'm doing what your perfect tactical analysis says I wouldn't do. The assassin's secondary heart was pounding now, her combat chemicals mixing with something else, something she hadn't felt since her first hunt. The other operatives. What happened to them? They learned. Just as you're learning now. The Council thinks humanity is dangerous because we're disrupting their carefully maintained order, but they don't understand why we can do it. Chen's expression turned serious. We don't see limitations the way other species do. Where you see established patterns, we see opportunities to create new ones. Where you see perfect systems, we see room for improvement. Where you see finished evolution, we see potential for change. Zorax's neural processors pinged a warning. Chen had been slowly moving them both around the room, but not randomly. They were now positioned. The explosion rocked the station before she could complete the thought. Emergency bulkheads slammed down as atmosphere vented from strategic points. Points that shouldn't have been vulnerable. Points that had been deliberately weakened. Like I said, Chen's voice came through Zorax's neural comm as the human sealed her pressure suit. Unpredictable. The assassin's adaptive biology protected her from the vacuum, but her tactical position was suddenly catastrophically compromised. The station's artificial gravity flickered and died. Debris floated between them, turning the room into a zero maze. The Council sent you to maintain their version of order, Chen continued, maneuvering through the chaos with practiced ease, to eliminate a threat to their perfect system. But perfection is stagnation. Growth requires change. Evolution demands adaptation. Zorax watched as her target, no, her opponent, moved through the Zerog environment with impossible confidence. Every attempt to predict Chen's next movement failed. Every pattern her neural processors identified proved false the moment it was recognized. For the first time in her long career, the galaxy's deadliest assassin faced a truth she had never considered. Perhaps perfect prediction was a weakness, not a strength. And perhaps humanity's greatest weapon wasn't technology or biology or even unpredictability. It was the ability to make others question their own perfection. The vacuum of space filled the shattered conference room, debris spinning in elegant chaos. Zarax's adaptive biology handled the environment automatically, but her neural processors were another matter. They continued trying to predict Chen's movements, generating and discarding tactical analyses at a rate that threatened to overwhelm even her enhanced systems. Your council has a fundamental misunderstanding of humanity. Chen's voice came through the neural comm, echoing oddly as she maneuvered through the debris field. They see our adaptability as a threat to their order. What they don't realize is that adapting to chaos is order, of a different kind. Zarax launched herself off a floating panel, her quantum blade cutting through the space where Chen should have been. You orchestrated all of this. The empty station. The other operatives. The council's growing concern. Of course, Chen's admission carried no trace of pride or boasting. Just as you orchestrate your hunts. The difference is, I'm not trying to eliminate a target. I'm trying to prove a point. A piece of debris struck Zarax's shoulder. An impossibility given her neural processor's ability to track every object's trajectory. Unless you're changing the debris patterns. No, I'm changing your perception of the patterns. Your processors are calculating perfect Newtonian physics in a vacuum. But what happens when some objects don't follow those laws? Zarax's enhanced vision caught glimpses of tiny propulsion units on select pieces of debris. Not random chaos at all, but a choreographed dance designed to disrupt predictive algorithms. You turned the room into a weapon. I turned your greatest strength into a weakness. Chen's voice held no mockery, only a teacher's patience. Your neural processors are exceptional at predicting normal behavior patterns. But when those patterns become deliberately abnormal, they waste resources trying to establish new patterns. Zarax finished. Her secondary heart rate elevated as implications cascaded through her tactical analysis. The trade negotiations with the Vorax. The Silicon Collective Peace Treaty. You didn't outmaneuver them. I showed them something their perfect predictive systems couldn't process. Chen emerged from behind a floating section of wall, her pressure suit's systems allowing smooth movement through the Zerog environment. The Vorax based their xenophobia on the assumption that all species follow predictable biological imperatives. The Silicon Collective's organic superiority complex stemmed from their ability to calculate perfect outcomes. Another piece of debris struck Zarax, this time from an angle that her processors insisted was mathematically impossible. You made them doubt their own systems, just as I'm making you doubt yours now. Chen's tone shifted, becoming more intense. The Council maintains power through perfect prediction and control. Every species in their sphere of influence follows established patterns, plays by known rules. Then humanity comes along, breaking those patterns, ignoring those rules, achieving impossible outcomes through methods that defy prediction. Zarax's neural processors pinged another warning as the debris field's movement subtly shifted. Not random, not predictable, but purposeful in a way that defied traditional tactical analysis. They fear losing control. They fear evolution. Chen's correction was gentle but firm. The Council's power isn't based on superior technology or physical capabilities. It's based on knowing exactly how every species will react in any given situation. But humans, we look at their perfect systems and ask why not do it differently. The assassins' combat chemicals were mixing with something else now. Understanding. The previous operatives. They reported back to the Council. Eventually. After they learned the same lesson you're learning now. After they understood why the Council's fear of humanity is both justified and misplaced. A larger section of debris spun past, and Zarax caught her reflection in its polished surface. Her scales had shifted color, matching not just her surroundings, but the chaotic patterns of the debris field itself, adapting not to a fixed environment, but to continuous change. You're not just proving humans are unpredictable, she realized. You're proving that adaptation is inevitable, that even perfect systems must evolve or become obsolete. Chen's smile was visible through her helmet's faceplate. Now you understand why the Council is truly afraid. It's not just that humanity defies their predictions, it's that we're showing other species they can defy those predictions too. Every trade deal we negotiate, every conflict we resolve, every impossible outcome we achieve, we're teaching the galaxy to embrace uncertainty, to see chaos not as a threat, but as an opportunity. Xerex's neural processors finally stopped trying to establish tactical patterns, shifting instead to pure observation mode. The debris field's dance became clearer without the overlay of predictive algorithms. Not chaos at all, but a new kind of order. One that couldn't be predicted, only experienced. The Council won't accept this revelation easily, she said, deactivating her quantum blade. No, Chen agreed. They won't. That's why they need to learn from those they send to stop us. From operatives like you, who are capable of understanding that perfect prediction isn't the highest form of evolution. Adaptation is. The assassin felt her combat chemicals beginning to recede, replaced by a clarity she hadn't experienced in centuries of hunting. You never intended this to end in death. Death is predictable. Learning is revolutionary. Chen gestured to the stars visible through the station's broken hull. The galaxy is changing, Xerax. The question isn't whether you'll eliminate me. It's whether you'll help the Council understand why they should stop trying to prevent the inevitable. For the first time in her career, the galaxy's deadliest assassin faced a choice that no tactical analysis could resolve. A choice between maintaining perfect patterns and embracing uncertain evolution. A choice that would reshape not just her understanding, but the future of galactic civilization itself. The Council chamber's crystalline spires no longer seemed to shimmer with perfect symmetry to Xerax's enhanced vision. Instead, she noticed the subtle imperfections, the tiny variations that made each crystal unique, the same variation she had always filtered out in her pursuit of perfect patterns. The Overseer's energy form pulsed with barely contained agitation as she delivered her report. The target escaped. No. Xerax's scales shifted, reflecting not the chamber's light, but the chaos pattern she had learned from Chen. The target succeeded. Explain. The Overseer's tone held a dangerous edge. You sent me to eliminate a threat to galactic stability. Xerax began, her neural processors no longer attempting to predict the Council's reactions. But you misidentified the threat. It's not humanity's unpredictability that endangers your order. It's your insistence that order requires perfect prediction. The chamber's quantum field rippled as other Council members stirred. The Overseer's energy form condensed, a sign of focused attention. You were compromised. I was educated. Xerax moved forward, her movement patterns subtly altered from the precise rhythms she had maintained for centuries. 300 cycles of hunting, eliminating targets that threatened your perfect system. But Chen showed me something even my enhanced senses had missed. The pattern of breaking patterns, the stability found in adaptation. These are human philosophies. The Overseer dismissed. Their chaos thinking has infected you. Has it? Xerax's secondary heart beat steadily, no longer racing with combat chemicals. Or has it awakened something we all once knew, before we became obsessed with predictability? The previous operatives didn't fail their missions. They succeeded in ways you couldn't predict. She gestured to the chamber around them, her enhanced vision highlighting details that suddenly seemed significant. Look at your own creation. These crystal spires. You see perfect geometric patterns, precise angles, controlled growth. But look closer. Every crystal has variations, microscopic adaptations to stress, to pressure, to change. Even in your symbol of perfect order, adaptation thrives. The Council members stirred again, their energy forms flickering with different frequencies. The Overseer's voice held a new note. Uncertainty. You suggest we simply allowed humans to disrupt millennia of carefully maintained balance. I suggest you recognize that balance isn't maintained through rigid control. It's achieved through constant adaptation. Zarax's scales rippled with the debris field pattern she had learned from Chen. The Vorax didn't abandon their xenophobia because humans forced them to. They abandoned it because humans showed them new possibilities. The Silicon Collective didn't free their organic slaves out of weakness. They freed them because humans demonstrated that unpredictability could enhance their perfect systems, not threaten them. And you. The Overseer's energy form expanded slightly. What did the humans show you? They showed me that my perfect hunting pattern was a limitation, not a strength. Zarax's neural processors hummed with new algorithms, ones that embraced uncertainty rather than eliminating it. Every target I eliminated, I did so by predicting their responses, exploiting their patterns. But what if those patterns aren't weaknesses to be exploited? What if they're opportunities for evolution? The chamber fell silent as her words resonated through the quantum field. Finally, a different council member spoke, their energy form displaying colors Zarax had never seen in the chamber before. You believe we should embrace chaos. I believe we should embrace change. Zarax moved through the chamber, her motion neither the perfect hunt pattern of her past, nor the pure chaos humans might choose, but something new. The galaxy is evolving. Species are beginning to break free of their predictable patterns, inspired by humanity's example. You can continue trying to eliminate these sparks of change, sending more operatives to learn the lessons I've learned. Or, the Overseer's tone held something new, curiosity. Or you can recognize that your fear of human unpredictability reveals a deeper truth. Perfect systems don't survive. Adaptable ones do. Zarax faced the council directly. Chen didn't need to eliminate me to win. She needed me to understand. Just as I don't need to force you to change, I only need you to see the pattern of breaking patterns. The chamber's quantum field pulsed with increasing frequency as the council members communicated in frequencies beyond even Zarax's enhanced perception. When the Overseer spoke again, their energy form had shifted to a configuration she had never witnessed. 3 operatives, 3 different patterns of revelation. Perhaps that is a pattern worth studying. Zarax felt her scales shift one final time, settling into a new configuration that was neither the perfect camouflage of her hunting days nor the chaos pattern of her battle with Chen. Something unique, something evolved. Humanity's gift to the galaxy isn't chaos, she said softly. It's the recognition that true order comes not from enforcing patterns, but from allowing them to evolve. Each species, each civilization, each individual finding their own way to adapt. Not perfect, not predictable, but alive with possibilities. As she left the chamber, Zarax's neural processors pinged one final notification. She had arrived as the galaxy's deadliest assassin, perfect in her patterns of elimination. She departed as something else, something that, like humanity itself, defied easy prediction or classification. She departed as proof that even the most perfect systems could learn to embrace the beauty of uncertainty. And somewhere in the galaxy, Sarah Chen smiled, knowing that another seed of change had taken root in the cosmic garden of evolution.